guests, distinguished colleagues. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And let me just iterate one thing. As Dr. Ashraf had just announced, I'm an architect, I'm not an MD. However, it's a pleasure for me to be with you. If I may take permission for a couple of minutes first. Based on the discussion, I think we need to through two key issues here during the discussions. I thought that we're having this problem only in architecture or engineering, but apparently it's in the medical profession. Who's in charge of the medical profession in Egypt? Who's the owner of it? Is it the Ministry of Health? Is it the syndicate? Universities? Who's in charge of doing what and when? Who's making the decisions? I think this is one issue we all need to address. Address the medical profession. I think all the professional entities in Egypt need to address this. And we need some form of restructure for professional practice in Egypt. This is one thing. The other thing I think we need to address is the difference between teaching university and research university. We don't talk about it here in Egypt. It's a critical issue. It's always discussed in other countries as well, especially in the Western Hemisphere, but we don't discuss it here in Egypt. Third one, the difference between research as an individual initiative and institutional system. Most of what we do here, I think, to some extent, is individual initiative. I think we need to step forward to an institutional system. I'm sorry to intervene into the medical profession, but I thought there are some resemblances to what we are facing in architecture and engineering too. So I thought I might throw this for your discussion here, and I'm going to flip back to our presentation. Me and the colleague, Sir Michael Houlgate, we're going to talk about Newton Musharrafa. Newton Musharrafa Fund, it's a pleasure to have it here because Egypt is the only country in the Middle East who is part of the Newton Fund. But before I go specifically to Newton Musharrafa, I'd like to give an overview. There have been endeavors by a team from the Supreme Council of University just to try to establish stronger links with the UK. It started in 2012. For various reasons, this link was almost broken for quite some time, and for unknown reasons. However, we started working on it since 2012, and I think Professor Ashraf was heading the team, and we have another member of the team here, Dr. Ali Shamsuddin. We started working on it. Newton Musharrafa was one of the outcomes of it, and the peak was the MOU that was signed between the Egyptian government and the UK government last November, alongside the visit of President Sisi to the UK. There are a lot of potential here for collaboration between the UK and Egypt, but we need to be very specific about what we are targeting. We need to go into details, and it's up to the academic community and the research community to be more effective. An MOU is an MOU, it's a piece of paper. Without proper mechanism for implementation, without your support from the two sides of the borders, I think it will stay on paper. Let's go to Newton Musharrafa. Of course, the name Newton is for the fund generally from the UK side, and it started some time ago, and Egypt jumped in, so we decided to pick the name Musharrafa to be the two sides. Of course, Musharrafa is an eminent scientist, Egyptian scientist, who graduated from King's College and who have done a lot of superb research work in physics. The partners here, Business Innovation and Skills Ministry in the UK, the British Council, and the British Embassy in Cairo, and from the Egyptian side, Ministry of Scientific Research, STDF, and Ministry of Higher Education. And by the way, allow me to express my appreciation for the British Council team for their superb efforts and support throughout the process.
because it was a long process and tedious one too. Newton Sharafa Fund. The Newton Fund is just from the UK side, and it involves a lot of countries throughout the world. The target of it is 750 sterling pounds. It's a match fund. It means that the UK pays half of it and the other country pays the other half, whether through the government support or private sector support, but at the end of the day it's a matching fund. The UK government will contribute 75 million each year starting 2014-15. The funding will be matched, as I mentioned, by the UK government and the other government. The Newton is running now in 15 countries, emerging powers. Egypt, again, is the only country in the Middle East who is part of this fund. Overview of activities: scholarships, mobility schemes, workshops, joint research training. Overview of the Newton Sharafa Fund continued. The funding of the UK side comes from the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills. The funding from Egypt comes from SCDF and the Ministry of Higher Education. The fund is managed jointly by the British Council and the British Embassy in Cairo. The fund will cover three broad categories: people, which is capacity building, exchange, mobility, programs, research collaboration and development topics, and finally translation, which involves commercialization of research for greater impact. And I think this is one of the areas for us here in Egypt we need to address. We are working on it at the Supreme Council. We need to change some of the laws slightly. We need to have fresh ideas, and actually some of them can come from the UK, like having spin-off companies that can support inventions and innovations coming from the academia. And again, it's up to you to go up in any of these channels. Foster economic development and social welfare. This is the objectives. Improve the capacity of the Egyptian science and innovation sectors, and of course the quality of it too. And finally, establish and maintain sustainable long-term mutual collaboration between the UK and higher education institutions in Egypt. The impact, or the expected impact: enhancing economic growth through research, focusing on Egypt's national priority of energy, healthcare, water management, agriculture. Improving performance in key sectors such as tourism will encourage more engagement. And by the way, there is a fifth area that emerged out of this, which is heritage and heritage management. Allow me just to give you a brief This is a list of the projects that are funded. So the bottom line I'm trying to address here, so far there is a good progress. We have currently 104 links between various types of links between Egyptian institutions, higher education institutions, and UK institutions. This is through the Newton Sharafa Fund. We have other links ongoing also. The summary of it, as you can see at the bottom here, total approved so far 104, ongoing, that's under review at the moment. We have 32 institutional links, 20 PhDs, 20 postdocs, 12 workshops, total of 84 under review at the moment. I'm going to stop talking at the moment. I'm going to leave the floor for Michael, and later if you have any question, we'll be happy to entertain. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Yasser. Good morning, everyone. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Houlgate. I am based in Cairo. I work for the British Council as heads of the Newton Musharraf Fund. Dr. Yasser has given us an overview of... Sorry, let me get myself sorted out here. Dr. Yasser has given us an overview of what the fund is, what the objectives are, and some of the successes that we've achieved so far. What I'm going to do for the rest of the presentation is give you an idea of what the upcoming opportunities are for UK and Egyptian universities to apply for. There's a lot of money out there. We really encourage everyone to apply because the quality of the fund is only as good as the applications that we receive. So we really want to maximize the number and the quality of the applications that we receive. First of all, just the general principle of the fund, all of the money is distributed through a process of open and competitive calls. The calls are opened and assessed on a rolling basis. In general, all of the applications are reviewed in parallel by two panels, one in the UK and one in Egypt. Okay, so the first kind of category of opportunities that we run are mobility grants. So this is all about capacity building for young Egyptian researchers by offering them the opportunity to do research and study at UK universities. And we offer opportunities both for PhD students and also for postdoctoral researchers. So in terms of the PhD program, this is a program that is run in partnership with the Ministry of Higher Education's Cultural Affairs and Mission sector. And we offer opportunities for PhD joint supervisions at universities. Joint supervisions are 1-year placements that can be extended up to 2, and they're offered for current PhD students at Egyptian universities to go and do their field work or their lab work at UK universities, working in UK labs with UK supervisors, and then they'll return to Egypt to do their thesis and get their degree from the Egyptian university. We offer, it's all expenses paid, so we offer all travel expenses, all fees, bench fees and tuition fees, and all living expenses as well. We offer probably about 20 to 25 places every year, but this changes depending on how much money we get from the UK government. It hasn't been announced yet for 16-17. Because this program is run in partnership with the Ministry of Higher Education Mission sector, all Egyptian participants must currently be studying and working at a public university or research centre, one which is a member of the mission's plan in Egypt. The next call, I'm afraid we've just finished a call about a month ago, so the next call won't be until August 2016, and this will be for entry into UK universities in the summer and autumn of 2017. Okay, so PhDs is number 1. Number 2 are the postdoctoral travel grants. So these are shorter term periods of study or research in the UK, and they're aimed at postdoctoral researchers, but researchers who are still quite early on in their career. So the rough definition we have is you need to have a PhD, but you need to have achieved your PhD within the last 10 years. We support visits between 1 and 6 months. And the grants are offered up to £12,000 sterling to support that. And that covers all of their living and travel expenses. And we do also offer a limited amount of money for bench fees or research fees, although the expectation with these projects is that the UK lab would also contribute something to the research fees as well. Because these grants are not just about capacity building for the UK, for the Egyptian researcher, but we're also trying to help set up partnerships, longer-term, more sustainable partnerships between the Egyptian and the UK researchers and institutions. And as I say, they're aimed at early career researchers, so postdoctoral researchers, but within 10 years of getting their PhD. The next call for this opportunity will be launched in April, exact date to be confirmed, with the deadline in June 2016. Okay, so those are the mobility grants, the PhDs and the postdoctoral travel grants. The next area of project that we run are research projects, and the main way in which we fund research projects is through a program called Institutional Links. So institutional links are grants to initiate or develop research and innovation collaborations between UK and Egyptian institutions. The grants are worth between 50 and 300,000 pounds sterling to cover a research project of up to 24 months. This project, I should say, sorry, I forgot to say, with the exception of the PhD program, which is run with the missions sector of the Ministry of Higher Education, all of the other projects we run are in partnership with the Science and Technology Development Fund, the STDF, which is the main research funding mechanism that exists in Egypt. So the postdoctoral fellowships and the institutional links, we co-fund this with the Science and Technology Development Fund. This 50 to 300,000 pounds sterling can be spent on a number of things, including staff costs for permanent staff, as well as for hiring research assistants and temporary staff. It can go on materials or direct research costs, lab costs. It can go on operational costs, running events and seminars and things. It can also go on travel. The one thing you need to be aware of is that there are caps on how much equipment can be bought, because institutional links are supposed to be about an investment in people as opposed to an investment in equipment. So the applicants are allowed to apply to buy small amounts of equipment. I think the cap is about £5,000 sterling per individual piece of equipment. If you want to apply for more equipment than that, it has to be approved by the Newton Fund Board in London. Again, the next call for this will be going out in April, and the deadline will be in June. It'll be the same dates as for the postdoctoral fellowships. So those are the mobility grants, the research projects, and I'll just end by talking about a variety of workshops and training programs that we run for Egyptian researchers as well. So the first program I want to talk about here is a program called Research Connect. Now, Research Connect is training for science communications. It's all about building capacity of young Egyptian researchers to successfully engage with their international counterparts. We know that Egyptian researchers are often marginalized from international research conversations. They're underrepresented in international journals, they're underrepresented in international conferences. And the reason for that is often less because of the quality of the research and more because of the fact that the research isn't communicated as effectively as it could be, or it's communicated in a language that the international research partners don't speak or don't understand. So this training, we offer training in a variety of modules to build capacity in that area. Know your audience. That's all about how can you tailor your message so that you're speaking directly to the person who's going to be reading your research communication. Abstracts. If you can imagine somebody flicking through hundreds of abstracts looking for an article to read, how can we write the abstract so that it jumps out of the page and makes somebody want to read it? It's about presentations or lectures. How can you deliver an engaging lecture? Writing for publication. Persuasive proposals. This is a really important one. How can you write proposals to get international research funding that are going to be successful? How can you speak to the people who assess these proposals? And then there's also modules on academic collaboration. How can you build successful, sustainable partnerships with international researchers? We also offer a Train the Trainers module, which has been very successful. The idea being, at the minute, this training is delivered by UK researchers, but what we're trying to do is build a core capacity within Egyptian universities so that the training can be delivered by Egyptian researchers going forward in the future. And the next call will be the summer 2016. We've run about 20 of these workshops so far. There's actually one going on right now at Port Said University today. They've been very successful, and so we really encourage applications for this. Okay, I've just got 2 more to go. The next program is workshops. We provide grants for bilateral workshops between UK and Egyptian researchers. These are workshops that are very much like the one you're attending today. They're workshops that bring together researchers from Egypt, researchers from the UK, to share their research and to develop partnership. We want to bring together younger researchers, especially. They can talk about the research they're doing in their own country. They can learn about the cutting-edge techniques that are going on in the other country, and they can start to figure out areas that they might like to work together on in the future. As I say, that the workshops are aimed at early career researchers from both countries. Generally speaking, the way the grants work is that a more senior researcher from the UK and Egypt will apply for the grants, and then they'll invite about 20 or so researchers from both countries that are either PhD students or early career postdoctoral students to come together either in Egypt and the UK for about a week or so, maybe 3 days to a week, to share their research and to develop partnership. I should say that the workshops have been very successful in the past, and actually several of our applications for the big institutional links research projects have grown out of past workshops. So this is a really good way to start fostering partnership and collaboration for people who aren't quite ready to apply for joint research projects. Again, the next call for this will be April or June. It'll be the same dates as the institutional links and the postdoctoral fellowships, and the precise dates will be announced soon. Okay, the last program I want to talk about is Leaders in Innovation Fellowships. Dr. Yasser spoke about the importance of translation, taking research outputs and commercializing them, taking them out of academia and making sure that they can benefit everyone in society by being commercially viable products. Leaders in Innovation is training and support for the commercialization of research outputs and ideas. The way it works is that we take Egyptian researchers who have some sort of output already, whether it's a patent or a prototype or some sort of concrete product, but which isn't quite ready for commercialization. We send them to the UK for 2 weeks worth of training. And this training is like a 2-week MBA. It's training for business finance skills, commercialization skills, how does IP work. It's also about business leadership. It's teaching professors how they can be the CEO of their new spin-out company. And we're also teaching them things like pitching skills. How can you pitch your idea to investors to get investors to want to invest in your product? So there's 2 weeks training in the UK. We've actually just finished a very successful, the first cohort in Egypt was the first 2 weeks of February. They've just come back and found it very successful. Once they return, they can apply for a grant of about £30,000 sterling to help implement their business plan. We aim to send about 15 researchers to the UK each year to take part in this training, but if we find that there's more demand, this might be increased in future years. I don't have dates for the next call, but it will likely be sometime in the summer, and we'll communicate this closer to the time. So, in summary, there are 6 programs, 6 opportunities that we're running this year. There's the PhD scholarships, there's the postdoctoral travel grants, the joint research projects funded through institutional links, there's the Research Connect program, which is the communications training, the bilateral workshops, and then the Leaders in Innovation. All application for all of these calls are done online. The majority of these calls, the application is through the British Council website. For some of them, for the Research Connect and the Leaders in Innovation, the application will be through the STDF website. But all calls will be advertised, and there'll be links to all the applications on both British Council and STDF websites. If you want to find that, if you go to www.britishcouncil.org.eg, or if you just Google Newton Musharraf Fund, you can find our website. There's all the links there. There's also the opportunity to sign up for a bulletin, and then you'll hear as soon as the calls are about to be published, we can publish those calls. Let me say, we have received a lot of applications under the healthcare theme. Probably about 50% of the PhD scholarships are healthcare. However, all of the applications we've had, whether PhDs or travel grants or institutional links, all of the healthcare applications we've had have been medical research. And as we've heard over the last day, medical research is important, but there's so many other things, whether it's the establishment of a health insurance system or the establishment of a system of GPs or family medicine. There's a lot of other projects that we could be funding. So if you're interested in those areas, we really encourage you to apply in those areas too. The health theme of Newton Musharraf is very broad. It's multidisciplinary. And any research topic, whether it's social sciences or medical or pharmaceutical, anything that contributes to the development of a better healthcare system in Egypt would be eligible for funding under Newton Musharraf. I'm just going to finish with a thought. The famous UK scientist Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web, he said, the human brain has got billions and billions of neurons in it, but the cells by themselves are just a mush. They don't do anything. It's the synapses between the cells that make the brain a very powerful organ. And we think that the research sector is similar. Researchers working by themselves are fine, but what makes the research sector a tool which is so powerful isn't the individual researchers, but it's the connections between the researchers, and it's the researchers working together. So with that in mind, I really encourage all of you to apply for Newton Musharraf grants, to go back to your universities, and encourage your colleagues and your students to apply for your grants. And I should say one thing as well. We are very happy to come out to universities to do talks, to do information sessions. We've done it before at Cairo, at Ain Shams, at Alexandria. Just let us know. We're happy to come out to your universities to do information sessions for your students and your staff about the opportunities. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions if there's time for that.